Hello. Bienvenue, willkommen. Welcome to episode number 19 of the Wonder of Stuff podcast, broadcast live on Google Hangouts on Air every weekend. This weekend, it was a bank holiday in the UK, so we're broadcasting on the Monday night. It's the place where you'll find news, information, commentary on science, engineering, and technology matters. Anything from the past week beyond and everything else that pops up into our little brains at the time. As ever, my name is John Gardner, and to help us out on the journey to knowledge, my colleagues, Richard Smith and Ross Davidson, are here. Say hello, chaps.
Hello, chaps.
Hello, chaps.
So how have you been this bank holiday weekend? Have you had a fun-filled jolly?
It's been great. Yeah, it's been nice and sunny for a change.
Everybody been drunk, yes?
Yes, of course.
Good.
Had to watch that match on Sunday.
You watched?
Had to be drunk to watch the match on Sunday.
Oh yes, football. Yes, Newcastle, not good. Right. Anyway, let's toddle on with the show. We're going to start with a topic that it's my topic. Ooh. You've heard of snakes on a plane, but this is not snakes on a plane. This is ants in space. It sounds like a Muppet thing. Or that was pigs in space, wasn't it? Anyway, so. This was one that I suggested to Richard to do because obviously, being the hobby myrmecologist on the team, he's probably best to do this. But he said, no, you do it. So let's not be typecast now. So this is my story, but it's about ants. So one of the most interesting aspects of ants for me and for lots of people who are probably don't know much about them, is how a colony of ants operates, and this is basis of the research for this story. This research was started last January 2014, and it was colony of ants on the International Space Station. Now it's been completed, and now it's been written up and published in a paper. We've got the results here. Many studies have been undertaken on ants on Earth. We've done that for many decades, but we've never had anything in microgravity like this. So this is the first. Now Richard may tell us differently, but I think it's fair to say that we still don't fully understand how ants operate as a unit in a colony to get work done with no single designated leader. So different ants fill in different roles, and all the things that need to happen within a colony just seem to happen, particularly the aspect of foraging, where ants go out, check out new territory, and bring back food. So this particular research project was all about watching ants, how they deal with the space conditions, so that it helps the understanding of how they do what they do. They wanted to see if the ants would change their searching and foraging activities to compensate for the lack of gravity. So I've got a diagram here, which is quite useful for. Let me just get it up here, and this is quite useful for explaining the rest of the topic. Okay, so the experiment that we have, there was a colony of ants in space, in the International Space Station, and the experiment consisted of having a group of ants start off in. Well, this is the actual colony here. So the blue bit down at the bottom is their nest, and then they've got two areas which are cordoned off by little doors. So area 1 and area 2. So the first part was to get the ants out of the nest and into area 1. So the door was opened and allowed the access to this side, and then after a while they opened another door and let them out into area 2. And they filmed the whole of this aspect of the experiment, and what they found were that the ants were far less efficient than the ants in the exact same conditions on Earth. So when they did this experiment again on Earth as a control, they spent much more time simply. Well, and this is I was just talking to Richard before we came on air, and this is sort of what I would expect to happen. And again, I guess the guys who were doing the experiment thought that this was going to happen, and it proves the hypothesis. When you go, if I was to go into space for the first time, and I could only sort of walk on walls, and I couldn't, and I didn't understand the whole concept of flying around without gravity, then I would spend most of my time probably trying to hang on to things and try and keep myself on the wall. And this is what the ants seem to do. When they were going out foraging, occasionally they'd actually become off the wall and they'd start flying around and hang around in space. So they spent a lot of time trying to cling to the walls, quite often found themselves slipping and hanging in the air for several seconds until they found something they could sort of grab onto and bring them back to where they were doing their little tasks. So the whole point of this was that when they were doing the foraging, it was a lot less efficient because they're not spending enough time foraging, and they weren't covering the areas. So that was essentially the experiment that they did. Have you got anything to say on the whole thing, Richard?
So did they do that? Did they do how they tunnel in the nest and stuff like that, or was that not possible without gravity then?
Oh, well, I don't think there was nothing in the paper mentioned about the nest other than the dimensions of the nest and then the dimensions of the whole experimental colony box, as it were. I don't think they told you anything about that.
That'd be interesting to see if, with less gravity, to see if it would change how they'd engineer their tunnels, and see if they would then have to be more long and spread out because of the lower gravity or no gravity or whatever.
Well, it's interesting because what I thought that it was merely an experiment to see how the foraging changed and how the whole searching mechanism changed and whether the paths that they went out were the same and stuff, and they were proved not to be. But there's a lot of thing in the paper, in the preamble on the paper, about that. Although it doesn't seem that the experiment yielded much in the way of explaining how the ants know what to do and when, but they did suggest that their ability to adapt to new surroundings and to continue searching might help other scientists to develop better computer algorithms for programming robots and doing similar things.
Right. Yeah.
So are these two areas like open areas rather than being filled with like you say, material for them to dig through?
Yeah, let me just see. I've got this little this is a PDF of the whole thing, which I was looking at before. Excuse me for not getting this ready, but if we just scroll up here, you'll see that this is their this is their area. I don't know whether you can see that. Let me just.
Yeah.
So these are the little.
Oh yeah.
So this is the nest.
Quite similar to what formicariums look like. What you would have.
Right.
Ants on Earth anyway. Yeah.
But this is the little nest area here, and this is area 1 and area 2.
Yeah. So quite a simple setup basically.
Yeah, very simple setup. So there's no. This is just when they say a nest, it's just a repository of ants. Really, there's no burrowing going on. Well, from what I can see.
No, I mean artificial nests. When you have formicariums in the hobby, that's what they're like. They're normally dirtless nests. Even if the ants are tunneling ants, obviously you don't want the dirt obscuring your view. So normally what they do is these perspex setups with little chambers basically, and the ants just adapt to it essentially.
Cool.
But yeah, you're right. It is interesting the whole thing about distributed intelligence, and there's this common misconception that the queen's the head of the colony, when in fact the queen is essentially the ovaries of the colony. So the queen's doing the egg laying, and basically that's more or less it. I mean, in the very early stages when it's just the queen, clearly she has a bit more to do than that. She digs the initial tunnel, lays the first batch of eggs, but from the first Nantic workers emerging, the first set of small workers onwards, she just basically is doing that job and that's it. And yeah, you're right. We don't know what who's calling the shots, as it were, because the intelligence seems to be distributed throughout the colony. So it does beg interesting questions, doesn't it? Then, it's a bit perplexing that okay, it's distributed, but then still, who's making the final decision on how many workers we send out on this occasion, and blah blah blah.
Because we know a certain amount of information about that they have chemical sort of trails, don't we?
Yeah, they release pheromones, signaling pheromones. Yeah.
And is it the antennae that pick this up?
Yeah.
Do we know that? Or?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it depends on the species. I mean, it's ants are hyper diverse, so there's ants who have got very good eyesight. There's ants I've collected from Scotland before where they live in a large nest made of pine needles, and it's quite spooky. They'll all be standing on the nest, and they'll hear you approach, and they'll all turn around and look.
Really?
The ants turning at once. And they've got really good eyesight. They just live in an environment where eyesight plays an important part, and there's obviously lots of species of subterranean ant where they're completely blind, so it varies. But the whole communication thing is done by either electrical signals touching antennae or pheromones.
You see, what I'm interested in, and there's surprisingly little information about any research has done on this. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying I couldn't find it, and that's investigations of how to sort of do equivalence in a business environment. So, conventionally we have a hierarchical management structure in most businesses of a certain size, certainly over a certain size. But I'm interested in any research that's been done on this as sort of like autonomous, sort of separate, separate sort of teams.
It's the opposite of a hierarchy, really, isn't it? It's a hierarchy-less society, basically. There's no hierarchy at all. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you would have to have, you would have to pick the right. I guess this is where it sort of distinction breaks down. I mean, we don't know, but presumably with ants, they are all very similar, and they know what they have to do. But with humans, you have to make sure that the actual process of employing them and interviewing them
even ants, I mean, their job. So you get like castes. So you can have like, not in this country, we don't really have soldier castes so much. We're doing a couple of species, but mostly we don't. But you'll see with a very exotic species, the ones with the very large mandibles and large heads, either for cracking nuts or nest defense. So you get like the large soldier type guardian ants. And then you get the small, they work as of various sizes. And when you have leaf cutters, you have like specialist, you have the ones that, you have soldiers, but you also have ones with large heads for carrying big pieces of leaf and the small ones for cutting them out. So you have lots of different castes like that, and they stick to that job. But also within a colony where, even with a single worker caste, they do different jobs depending on their stage of life. So when the first pupate emerges adult ants, they'll tend to be nursery workers, so they'll look after the young, and then they'll graduate on from that to nest building. So they'll do like tunnel maintenance and digging new tunnels and nest expansion. And then in their later stages of life, they'll become foragers on the surface. And of course, it works evolutionary because they're the workers that are going to get killed. So if you were going to design it, you would say, okay, the guys who were like near their life expectancy anyway, send them out on the surface.
So there is huge amount of equivalence within a human. I mean, I know that sounds really a horrific thing to do, but they do have their own roles, and they do have the advance as the time progresses in their life.
Yeah. I mean, Deborah Gordon, who's done this, who's the principal investigator on this space, ants in space thing, she has done a Google talk where Google were very interested. I mean, loads of people talk at Google, but she did touch on some areas where it might be some applicability to business and stuff like that, and you can see how, working in such a cohesive sort of way without, there's not much back and forth between them to come to a decision, and yet the decisions seem to be quite consistently correct. And yeah, it's still a mystery to us how they managed to get decisions so correct. without seeming to, there's no central decision maker. So how is it a case of each one has a vote? Is it a case of, is it all instinct and they all just happen to agree, or we don't know. But you see them disagree. I mean, when you have colonies, you see, say they've got a dead grasshopper and they're carrying it back to the nest, and 3 want to go that way and 7 want to go that way, and you see that that does happen. They don't always just. So
it's not just
agree.
It's not just a blind understanding and a blind. You do get little sort of, well, not arguments, but sort of altercations, little things.
Yeah. You get them in captivity as well. It's a bit like larger animals. They can go a bit stir crazy as well if they don't. At least this is anecdotal, but if you don't give them like prey items and they're used to having prey items, they can go a little bit off the rails and attack. Yeah, they can get a bit aggressive because.
And this is observable. I mean, I know you've had colonies before, haven't you?
Yeah. Anecdotally, I mean, it's probably not scientifically been observed. Well, it might have been.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what you seem to see is this type of activity, this type of response.
Yeah.
Intriguing. I mean, it's the fact is that that we've lived so many years with ants, all around us, and we're no real. There's lots of things that we're no further forward, but you would think that this. And the specific way the colony works, you would think that there'd be more research in these areas.
Yeah. I can remember that puzzle out, the death spiral, Ross. Can you remember that? About 5 years ago, there was this thing where it was driver ants from South America, and they're the ones that just clear the forest floor. They just go through and basically the locals in the Amazon or wherever it is, Peru, they just get up and leave. So they just get their livestock and just leave, and then the ants come through and they come back. The houses are completely cleansed of all wildlife, mosquitoes, spiders, bugs. Everything's just completely cleared out, and so they just do that. They go from they're nomadic, so they don't stay in one place. They have a bivouac and they just move around. But they're very, very scent driven to the extent where they sometimes end up in what they call a death spiral, where the scent ends up somehow by mistake trailing back on itself. So you'll get like a subset of the colony just trailing the nest in a circle endlessly, because they're just, and of course they're relaying the scent as they go, saying, okay, we found the way, and it's just like a feedback loop where they just end up going round until they die of exhaustion. But that kind of went viral a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it seems, I mean, I think it goes wrong more often in like urban environments. I think where there's like a diversity of stuff on the floor, it doesn't seem to go as wrong. But when they end up on smooth tarmac, that seems to misfire. So it'd be interesting. I think even if you get these space results on certain species, you'd have to replicate it with others and see if it's different, because they are very different animals. One species of ant is as far diverged from others as we are from broccoli. You know what I mean? It's that large of a, maybe not broccoli, but I don't know, guinea pigs or whatever. It'll be that divergent. Excellent.
Well, I mean, I'm going to publish the paper, the URL to the paper on the blog, and it's interesting. There's a lot, obviously, like most papers, there's a lot of information about how they set up the experiment, but there's a lot of genuine insight in there as well. So it's worth, if people want to know more, it's probably worth people actually having a look at the paper. It's only about 10 pages, so it's not a huge paper. Right. Okay. Well, we shall leave that one there, and we're going back to Richard actually on this one, and this is about robot personalities. It's one of your first. It's your second technology.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's only the second technology one. I'm kind of like you're doing my kind of area, and I think I'm kind of doing Ross's area here. But well, you probably both know about Google and its acquisition of Boston Dynamics and the robotic work they're doing there. And is it Spot the dog? But the dog,
big dog.
Is there small dog and something like that as well? Anyway, they've got,
and there's Pet Man as well, which is the human one.
I know they're doing a lot of stuff on the dog at the moment, and that's quite impressive. There's some good videos of that. But this is a patent that's just been approved in the US for Google, which is robot personalities. So basically, they've put a patent application in which has been accepted, so that they can develop downloadable robot personalities. There's obviously with a view for the future, so that you can modify from a base personality construct. So there's a default persona. That's what the patent is for, and to provide, this is from the patent, to provide states or moods representing transitionary conditions of happiness, fear, surprise, perplexion, thoughtfulness, derision, and so forth. And some media have been saying
that's a very strange patent.
Yeah, it's a very unusual one, and you could potentially, this is obviously speculative at this stage, but potentially could replicate a deceased loved one or celebrity at some point in the future. And also some I guess making the personality like someone that you used to know, or someone that's famous.
So they're basically saying that no other robot manufacturers can give a perceived personality to any robot. Anything that comes across as a human personality trait, they can't have that in a robot.
Well, they've had the US has granted them the patent, so it looks like it, yeah.
Because it's a very strange, sort of wide-ranging thing to patent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at something like Honda's Asimo. Now Asimo, you could, I mean, every time Asimo is on telly, my wife goes, "Oh, look at him." Now, because he has traits, he has personality traits.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he hasn't got a face, and a lot of this is a lot of the human interaction and human and emotional states are disseminated via their facial expression. Yeah. So if you haven't got a face, and most robots won't have a face, or if they will, it'll just be a couple of goofy eyes drawn on by the engineers. There won't be any, proper facial recognition, facial expression. So a lot of this will be like
personalities. You have to have eyebrows.
Yeah,
they're the most important thing, surely.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like even if you look at the cartoon, that's evil, frowning, surprised, and all this stuff. But Asimo does appear to have some sort of
well, yeah, but the patent isn't stopping you having a robot with a personality. It's downloadable, so they've put a patent in for developing downloadable from the cloud. So I think the idea is that Google at some point will have a robot device that you'll have in your home. You'll be able to create a personality on it, upload it to their cloud, download it from their cloud. That's the impression I get. Rather than, they're not stopping people developing robots with personalities. They're just saying, we want to patent this sort of baseline personality construct as a download, which is still very wide range, and it's still surprising that they've been able to do that. Yeah, that's
does that say something more about the American Patent Office than anything else?
Probably. But it's interesting looking at about people interacting different. People do definitely interact differently when it's got a face, but even people interact differently with robots than they do their tablet and their phone. The more humanoid you make it, the people do act very differently. And interestingly, it's a generational thing as well. They've found that young children are very, very receptive to robots, and they've done surveys where they've said, would you treat them as equals in society if it got to that stage, and children are very, very open-minded about that sort of thing. So, which is useful because it seems as though it's going to be part of our future, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at an article here. There's a picture from the patent, which I'm just going to share because it's brilliant. So this is a picture that Google put in the patent. So their diagrams of robots are fantastic.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Is one looks like an android, does it?
Well, actually, not, a little bit, but one looks like a bin.
Yeah.
Actually, most of them look like bins.
The top left-hand corner, as we're looking at it, looks very much like the little android icon. The little android man.
Without the arms and legs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can tell from that and the vague description that it's still a very high-level concept by the sounds of it.
So is this just a US patent, is it?
Just US at the moment, yeah. But, you can see, just on robotics generally, just a little bit of stats here, by 2050 the projected figures for people over 65 will be 1.5 billion, which means for the first time in human history we'll have more over 65s than under 20s. So, you know, it's a challenging time, and technology is going to have to step up for that sort of thing. So you can see from that point of view, if you can get robots to help around the home, and, you know, as the Japanese kind of had concepts for as far back as about 25 years ago, they had these sort of helping elderly people out with the robots around the house, and it hasn't really happened, has it? But
No.
I don't know, patterns like this probably tell you that it's moving in that direction, don't they?
Just having a look at that pattern, they're identifying a lot of things like, you know, the personality is based on the time of day, the location, what the weather's like. So they are sort of describing
A Furby.
a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
It's a Furby. That's what it is. It's a Furby.
If it's cloud-based, you could imagine like a situation where you've got a butler robot at home, and then you travel to a hotel, and the butler robot there is compact. You know,
Transfers the
it's been
personality.
synced so that it knows how you want your pillow plumped and how you want your coffee made and whatever else.
But I mean, this patent was filed like in 2012, April 2012.
Maybe it's just been approved. I think it's just been awarded this week or last week.
Interesting.
That's fascinating. Man.
Interesting.
They've got that 6 foot tall Atlas robot as well. I don't know if you've seen that, but looks like an interesting piece of kit.
Yeah, all of the Boston Dynamics stuff that I've seen is it definitely hits that uncanny valley thing, where, you know, they're obsessed with kicking it and trying to knock it over, and you're thinking, oh, don't kick it, because it definitely you sort of feel a bit of empathy towards it because it looks so realistic and moves so realistically. And then the humanoid ones, you see them struggling across like difficult terrain, and you're thinking, oh, don't fall over, and it's quite spooky, really, watching them.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That you're going to treat the technology with a bit more respect. I don't know how you'd phrase it, but, like, you know, you would treat it differently to a phone or a tablet because it's a person-like sort of thing. Regardless of the value, that's been shown in studies.
Shall I play the Spot the Dog one?
Yeah, go on. I had that somewhere, but I've managed to lose it. So yeah, please do.
Let me just.
Is this the latest one where he's walking down the corridor? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. I like how everyone's just ignoring it.
I mean, that there's pretty cool.
Pretty cool or pretty cruel, did you say?
Pretty cool, and the fact that you can kick it over.
I need to work out how to make it quieter though, because it's so noisy.
Yeah, you can hear all those little servo motors.
Poor little thing.
and
that was it, really. Just that it's surprising that this patent has been developed and approved. Yeah, it's an odd one. Have you seen that film where he's talking to his computer and it matches with his personality and works out what he wants to hear, and I think it's Scarlett Johansson's voice. Have you seen that?
Her, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit like the real version of that, basically, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that was another thing that it was saying in the article that I was reading, was that also the idea might be, I think this is people speculating on Google's behalf rather than coming from Google, mind you, but saying that perhaps Google would then access your devices and the robot would pick a personality based on an assessment of you, so that that does very much sound like her, doesn't it? Where the computer has the love of his life based on his personality.
Yeah. Interesting.
I've just had an online response from somebody who's watching it. Typical Americans, they patent anything just like the Chinese eat everything. Thanks, Rob. Rob is actually watching this live.
I thought that might have been Chris Copper. That was kind of a Chris Copper-ish thing to say. I thought it might have been him.
Right. Okay. We'll leave that one now, and we'll go on to the last one of tonight, which is one of Ross's, and it's 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 mining poo. Or poo
Yep,
mining.
poo mining.
Poo mining.
Yeah, so this is actually something that's come from some researchers from the US Geological Survey. Funnily enough.
They have a sense of humor too.
Yeah, and what they're looking at is basically ways to get metals, like precious metals, rare metals, from solid waste. So basically, you know, at the moment, obviously, I'm going to say solid waste rather than poo. It arrives at the treatment plant, and you know, you split it up into treated water and solids, and half of the solids go to landfills or get incinerated, and the other half's used as fertilizer. But obviously, the stuff that goes to landfills or incinerated, the reason for that is because it's got trace metals in, so it's not suitable. So what they're saying is basically, if they can get rid of those metals, they'll be able to reuse all the biosolids in useful ways, but also they'll get metals out of it. And basically, what they're talking about is there's the method that miners use to get metals out of rock, which uses chemicals called leachates, which is basically it's any liquid that goes through a solid and extracts soluble or suspended solids.
Is this what they do? Is this the same technique when they frack? Because I know they put lots of chemicals in there.
No, I think that's more. Well, actually, it might be, yeah, to break down parts of the rock and make it break down.
So
Yeah.
then, hang on. So you've got a floating bit of gold and a floating peanut. So how do you decide which one's
But anyway, what they actually did was they examined waste from towns in the Rocky Mountains and some other cities, and they detected sizable concentrations of platinum, silver, and gold. And the interesting thing is, the gold levels that they found were at the level of a minimal mineral deposit, which basically means the levels of gold they found were at the level that if they saw it in rock, it was a potential mining prospect. So that's the amount of gold that they found.
But how much crap was that?
What it was.
Because I mean, that's if that's like a week's worth of crap, then that's great. If it's saying like that's all the crap that's ever gone in there from the whole of the US or something like that, then well, let's just leave it.
There was a paper published in the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology last year, or earlier this year actually, and they estimated that the metals extracted from poo from a population of 1 million people could yield $13 million per year worth of precious metals. So it's significant. And in terms of what they actually extracted, there was silver, copper, gold, phosphorus, iron, palladium, magnesium, zinc, iridium, aluminium, cadmium, thallium, gallium, and chromium. So basically all of those they could make money from.
I mean, some of these make sense, but how is gold, for instance, ending up in our poo?
Well, it must be because obviously there'll be trace amounts in all sorts of things that we must ingest in some way.
Right.
And it's just trace amounts. It works out at $280 per ton is what they could extract.
Obviously, those would be artificially skewed if you ate some edible gold on the top of the cake.
Taking shots of that gold
Goldschlager.
it's called,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's just interesting that I mean, obviously, like I say, it's trace amounts, and there's trace amounts probably. You know, gold's not just in gold mines; it'll be all over the place. But if you get it together, you can actually make some significant, amount. And $280 per ton isn't bad. You know, especially when you think that the process of removing these metals makes the solids that are left more useful, because then they can be used for.
So what? There's $280 of precious metals per ton of waste.
Yep.
Oh, that's
what they reckon.
Yeah,
so it's quite significant.
Yeah, that is a lot.
So I don't know whether anyone's actually taken this forward. The paper was published. It was January 2005, and then they've been talking about it. I think it was last month. At the end of last month, there was a meeting of the American Chemical Society where they were going to talk about it. But there's 7 million tons of biosolids every year, in the US. So it's quite a lot of metals that could start extracting.
I'm just wondering if we're getting a lot of these metals or very small trace elements from our consumer electronics that we've got. I mean, a lot of these things are in mobile phones and various microelectronic devices. So I'm just wondering if we're picking it up that way.
I mean, I suppose when things get, if you think anything gets sort of incinerated or destroyed, there may be, trace elements that go into the atmosphere. You may ingest them by breathing them in. You may eat them. There was something about, what was it? Something about socks.
So it's not just people swallowing their gold fillings and things like that.
No. Hair care products, detergents, nanoparticles are put in socks to prevent odors. They're sort of examples of where these trace elements are potentially coming from.
But then you're ingesting them after that, though, obviously.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure who eats their socks. But...
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm wondering. There was this. I remember this a few years ago with catalytic converters in cars, and
I was just going to say that. I was actually just looking up catalytic converters because I'm sure that was.
Was that, and I think that was already being harvested, and they knew that a catalytic converter in all cars is probably worth something. But also, like, they were seeing the surface of roads as well for gold. That so many hundreds of miles of road would yield X amount of gold by harvesting the road surface, which I guess is from the similar process.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was. Mining poo is always a good topic to bring.
I mean, catalytic converters, they'll have things like palladium and platinum and all sorts, manganese, iron, nickel. Interesting, very interesting.
On the poo thing, I watched a documentary about following these people around who sewer workers and stuff like that, and you'd think they're terrible jobs, but the people who do them on the program, at least, and I'm sure I've heard as well, when they do these satisfaction surveys amongst people who work in sewers and around these sorts of, I don't know if it says more about them or the job itself, but they often rate the happiness of their job, this job satisfaction, quite high.
And you know why most of that is? Because they're not customer facing.
I prefer to deal with people's shit than the people themselves.
Yeah, well, you know where you are with the crap, don't you?
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm sick of dealing with this shit, so I'm going to go and deal with literal shit.
So, I mean, this study's been done in America. Obviously, it'd be interesting to know if there was a significant, and in the Rockies, is it significantly different across different areas in America, and would it be the same across the world? Would it be that in places that are, I don't know, China or somewhere that has lots of electronic devices everywhere, would they have more, or is it more of a natural source?
And also, I mean, I was just going to say that. You have images of these big piles of consumer electronics coming from all the west, going into Africa, going into Nigeria, and there's people there picking up the various things off, picking the ASICs off the board, off the circuit boards and everything. I'm just wondering if do we know where the sample came from? It was the
Rockies.
It was the Rockies.
The Rockies and some other. It says the Rockies and some other cities.
So we're going to have foam harvesting kits shortly, then. So
these things.
If you're going to get married, next time you start building up your palladium collection. By collecting yours and your neighbour's poo.
Right, that's enough of that.
Don't
be a poo prude.
I wonder if they could advance those toilets that they get in Japan, which analyse your excrement and give you a health check. They could do that, and it could, after you've done your business, just add some money to your account.
Yeah. I'll just give you a valuation. Every time you do a poo, you're trying to beat your personal best of valuation. Your previous poo was worth 3.7 pence.
You are deficient in calcium, but have an extra large amount of gold.
Presumably, some of the heavy metals do carry a associated health risk. Then, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Well, you would assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. Gallium can be good for you. Yeah.
I wonder what else.
I'm just looking at my periodic table.
Yeah, I wonder what else builds up in large amounts, because I know like lots of foods and stuff have got trace amounts of arsenic, haven't they? And presumably, eventually that builds up over tons and tons of excrement. Surely the arsenic values must be quite high and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because this list was all about the ones that could make money. So just looking at the paper here, God, there's all sorts. I've forgotten my periodic table. Hold on.
Well, I have it here.
It'll be the next. It'll be the next Al Qaeda thing. They'll be making bombs out of people's excrement or something like that.
I've chatted you the link to the paper, John. You use your periodic table.
Okay, I will do.
And have a look at what the rare earths and minor elements are.
Plutonium, uranium.
Actually, I think plutonium isn't there.
Plutonium is there.
Oh no.
I think that might be an easy one. Plutonium is normally quite an easy one to work out if it's dangerous or not.
Yeah. Is it plutonium or platinum? PT? Platinum, isn't it?
PT is platinum, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So we've got silver and gold and copper.
Wise yttrium is one. I know that one.
Iridium is in there.
Yeah, look at the lists here at the top.
Thallium's in there, and I don't think thallium's very good for you.
No.
Mind, if it's trace amounts per ton, then obviously it's going to be pretty small amounts on each person, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, sorry, it's not thallium, it's titanium. Damn. Anyway, right. Well, I think we've probably done enough of that crap. And that is the end of the scheduled program for this evening. But of course, this week we have had the restarting of the Large Hadron Collider. Was it 3 years ago when they found the Higgs boson? About that. It was quite a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been, and it's
And they've rebuilt it since then.
It's come back with double the power, yeah.
And they did it a couple of weeks ago, and then they found a sort of short circuit, so they've rewired it all, and it's come back on. And so what they're trying to do the next time is find the dark matter, or prove dark matter. Well, it's all. So this is the time where all the theoretical physicists go to the back. And all the ones who are actually doing the experiments get to do all their stuff.
Yeah. So actually they've just turned it on and tested it. It can fire protons in both directions, haven't they?
Yeah,
they're going to start doing experiments in September, is it?
Yeah, they've just started firing it all around just to make sure there's nothing, untoward and nothing stopping it going around all the way around. So they're all happy about that. So I just wanted to mention that at the end, being that is relevant to our topics. That is it for this evening, then. So we hope you've enjoyed our wide array of subjects this evening. We have had a ball doing them, and as always, if you're like Rob, who's sitting there watching the live stream, or if you want to watch the archive on YouTube, that's fine by us. But please give us some feedback. We have everybody's got their Twitter handle on there. Mine's there, and everybody else's has been on throughout the whole program. We have the email address, which is wonderofstuff@gmail.com, and of course we also have the blog, which is wonderofstuff.blogspot.com, where we put all the show notes and anything that we've got a reading list of everything that we're reading at the moment, and I'm putting some biographies on at the moment. I've only got a little bit of mine on, but we'll be putting some biographies of Richard and Ross, and hopefully some of our contributors who pop up now and again. We'll have something about them on as well. So just give us some feedback. Tell us if you enjoy the show or don't enjoy the show, and perhaps give us a topic to discuss. But that's all for now. So until next time, we're back to Sunday night next week after the bank holiday here in the UK. So until then, goodbye everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
And that's it.